Okay, so I picked this as my first blank to do a demo on. It's got a little bit of grain undulation, but in general it's pretty tight grain and fairly straight as far as this direction. Obviously, we got a little there. This is the best vise that I have for this type of work because the jaws are able to move, so it's able to grab all sorts of unique shapes and sizes, so that's great. Potentially you could take a moment and draw yourself some kind of circle down here, and I'm sure chair makers do more of that. Me, I'm okay with things being a little bit more whimsical, and I do so much like true furniture making that needs everything to be really precise, a nice 90 degrees and all of that, and I like an occasional project that has me step away from that and that I get to kind of have some more freedom with the shapes that I'm creating. So that's sort of where this is coming at. And I want to make sure I'm in frame still. And then from here, it is just get to work, let yourself take off some hefty material. And this is the joy of working with wet wood, is that you can do a lot of material removal very quickly. Definitely, if you stick with this, you're going to want to learn and watch some YouTube videos on how to sharpen a draw knife. I will admit that the other day was my first time sharpening it, so I don't know that I'm ready to give any solid advice, but like any time you're working with tools, sharp blade is the way to go. And then my major advice for you is to just keep rotating it in the vise often so that you slowly start to create something that's nice and round. So obviously I'm just trying to get away from the bark a little bit. If you have shave horse to sit on, that is a really nice ideal tool. When I first started doing this, I didn't have my vise attached to the wall right there. It didn't take long with this draw knife to add another screw into my bench to keep it from jumping around. This vise is called Pattern Maker's Vise. It's also known, I want to say, like a gun maker's knife, or not knife, vise. This brand is Woodcraft's brand, so Wood River, and about once a year it goes on sale, so it's $50 off, and huge fan of it. So I just realized with those couple of cranks, I started getting it to be pretty oblong. So I need to work on getting the shape that looks better. And as I get closer to the final size, I can start playing with, do I want to take more delicate shavings? But I'm a long ways away from that. So I'm going to put this just on time lapse. And we'll catch up in a while. This is going to keep me busy for some time. I don't need to just talk at you. So let's time lapse it. At this point, I'm trying to get a little bit of a lighter cut, so I am adding more slicing into my cut. Sometimes helps me have better control, as well as just applying less pressure. So this is something that's good to practice before you get too small, so that you know sort of what are your comfort and skill levels with the draw knife. So you know how to start letting up when you start getting down to a more ideal size. So in the past, at this diameter is when I gave up the draw knife and moved on to the Spokeshave. So, you know, obviously, you know, smaller than what my hands can do, or my thumb and forefinger, or pointer finger. But I found that I spent a considerable amount of time with the Spokeshave, and so I want to up my skills now and do a little bit more draw knifing. This is about the size that my previous blank was, and I found that once I put the tenon on this blank, it just felt way too big. And I'm sure people are going to say, what diameter is that? So that is 1.25 inches proud right now. So I am, now that I'm getting a little bit better at draw knifing, gonna keep working this down a bit more. And you also maybe saw times in the video where I put the draw knife backwards to deal with grain reversal. And I definitely have found that once I start using the Spokeshave, I can run past that grain reversal. Yes, there's some tear out, and I'm gonna have to deal with that in the cleanup process, but was able to just zoom through it, so the draw knife, which is just more grabby, catches on to that. Some more slicing action and not having the handles pointed down will give you a lighter cut for sure. And I find slowing down the stroke towards you also helps me have more control. There's some good grain tear out. Right, checking back in. So I've now got it down to about 1.25 inches diameter on each side. And I'm going to let myself see how using the Spokeshave is going to go. So I'm just doing a little cut to see how tight I'd gotten it, and I got these nice little softy, and I would be here for days. So I'm gonna have to get more aggressive with my cut. It's just not taking off enough. And for this one, I'm just gonna, just visually was looking, and now I can't really see any opening left in my throat. Mouth, I keep saying the wrong thing, but you can see how much heavier those shavings are. When I first did this, I went to the Spokeshave super early, and I spent a considerable amount of time kind of working these down just a little bit. So do what you want, but you may end up spending a fair bit of time if you go to the Spokeshave early, but you're less likely, way less likely, to just get whole chunks of wood if you have kind of undulations or grain reversal of just getting torn out like sometimes when I was using the Drawknife. So there's a trade-off there. Happy spoke shaving. It is a beautiful feeling, and you just get this beautiful pile of shavings next to your feet. So this is going to happen to you. I was able to keep pulling off a lot of the jammed in shavings for some time, but eventually I pretty much run out of blade. And so that just means for my spoke shave, I've got to loosen the blade, remove all those shavings, and start up again. So another reason, if you got a tight mouth spoke shave, to not go to it too early. But I am getting really nice shavings, and it's helping me not have like big grabs anymore. So I'm basically going to try going from 1 1/4 inches down to 1 inch in diameter, and then call this one good to start its drying process. I did it. I got my first leg piece, and so it really is coming out to be about 1 inch in diameter. Ta-da's. Ta-da's. Here's a good sense of it. And so what would happen to this next is assuming I made it through the pile just because I would want to keep all the parts the same. So if I didn't make it through the pile, I would honestly just throw this back into the plastic bag. And once I have all my parts through the pile, I'm going to have probably just be below like knee-deep shavings in front of me. And then I buried this in the shavings. And I left it there for, sorry, it took me a moment. I left it there for about 2 days. And then I went ahead and took it out, and I have it stickered here. And I, for the rest of the week, left it out. One time one of my stools got to be left out for about 4 days. Another one for 2 weeks. So it's a mix between how anxious are you to get down to the road, to the next step. But the main thing is that once it has had a chance to lose its lose its moisture, is that it stops when it's losing all that moisture, it's going to shrink up some. And so you don't want the joinery, you don't want to cut any of your joinery till when you touch it, it doesn't feel clammy at all to the hand or cool. Those are really good ways to kind of do a quick check on how dry is my wood. And then once it's gotten a chance to air dry and lose all of that moisture, that's when you will use the tenon cutter and make that to size. Hope that helps. See you around.